Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pro Trade Room Plus and Flash Manufacturing. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the Trading Director for 10-Minute Trades. Please remember, all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so please trade carefully. I am not a financial advisor. Okay, good morning, everyone. And welcome everyone that's watching on YouTube. This is our stream of the week, as well as the last trade room of the week. So let's see what we can get going. Take a look at the DMM. Let me just get my news up. All right. I definitely should not read the news. It just makes me crazy. Okay, it's very difficult to be a news trader and not read the news. The two don't go together. So I spend most of my day crazy. All right. What I do like to do every day before I come into the trade room, I like to go through the overnight news and see what happened. Um, in Great Britain, you have retail sales were announced last night. Spanish GDP, which I would guess that probably moved the euro. And also we had our euro trades, the overnight trades. Now, France was a little bit mixed in the news, while German was negative, and then at 4:30, England was negative. Anybody trade the overnight reports last night? I did not look at the market behavior yet. Basically, you have four countries with a somewhat similar report. You've got French, Flash Manufacturing and Services, PMI, German, Flash Services Manufacturing, PMI, the Euro version at 4 a.m., which has not been moving the markets very much. Doesn't mean it's going to not move the markets forever, but we haven't had a setup for it in a while. And then at 4:30, we have added the British version because it has started to move the British pound. The German and the French reports have really slowed down in terms of their impact, because I used to get up at 3 in the morning to trade those, and they just haven't really been moving that much. So let's take a quick look. So sometimes when I have time in the morning, let me put up the DMM so people could ponder the DMM for this morning. So let's ponder. We'll ponder away. And if you go to 6E0923, and if we just go back, so at 3:15 in the morning was the first report. So I'll zoom forward, right? If I don't do a replay and I'm in the same day, like we are today for the data, then you could, each click is a minute candle, right? So you can get an idea. You can put a smaller time frame on your chart if you wanted to. You could do like a 15-second chart if you wanted to, but then you got to go back and do the whole thing over with the time. Just for normalcy, I'm going to do the 1 minute. Go back in time here. So at 3 in the morning, we would have had our trade room, right? And then the event takes place at 3:15. So the next candle, in theory, the news should have just been released, and it was a little bit mixed, more to the negative side. Wow. Very possibly a very good trade. Very possibly a great move. Okay, depending how fast. Looks like a nice winner. Big move this morning. Big move. Wow. So now, obviously, too, depending how far apart your charts are spread. Sean Paul, I don't know if you feel like checking the spike. You know, my charts were spread a little too far, so let's not get carried away yet. But it was a continual downward move. Continual downward move. So now, if you look at 330, all right, depending on the number of ticks there, at 330, you definitely have a very tradable negative trade there. It did reverse a bit, you know, more than 50%. And let's look at 4 o'clock for the one we do not have a setup for. 4 o'clock, the Eurozone released their report, and not much reaction. And then at 4:30, you go to 6B. Okay, we go to 4:30 for 6B, for the British version of the report. And this week, the British CPI, PPI, RPI was a very tradable move, was real big. My guess is we have a big British move coming up here at 4:30. Negative news. You may have to start getting up for these. Now, that's a low volume move, probably. Very possibly. That could have been trouble, Langford. That could have been a difficult trade because there's not a lot of volume possibly on that move. Now, I think our stop would have been too small to survive that. So the British might have been tough. The British might have been tough. Have to test that. That's one I would like to test. Okay? If anybody traded it, let me know. Let's go to bonds. So we've got Flash Manufacturing Services. I'm going to trade ZN. This report, so here's what I think we might be able to expect this morning. Sandra, you tried the British one? Did you trade any of the others? Because France and Germany both look great. They both look very good setups. Did you make money on those, I hope? Let me know if you made money on those. I'd like to know that that's a yes. Okay. All right. I'm sorry you didn't trade those live. So here's why I would consider trading those live, just for future reference. We're in a moment where these inflation reports, and this is a report that is affected by inflation, the manufacturing, I expect will get a negative result this morning because the Fed trying to deal with inflation is damaging the manufacturing and industrial production of the country. I mean, that's what they're doing. Because the only way you can tame inflation is by killing growth, right? At least that's what they believe. They believe the only way they can kill inflation is by killing growth. and by killing the economy. I mean, it all is insanity in a way. I'm not an economist, so I'm not smart enough to know if there's a better way. There probably is. That's my guess. There's probably a better way. However, that's the way that we have, because that's the way that things get done. So what I anticipate is we will see negative industrial production and manufacturing numbers. That's what I think. So in theory, it may push bonds and it may push gold to the upside. I mean, the cost of fuel is way lower than it was a year ago. And it's all over. I mean, inflation is worldwide. It's not a US problem only. It's a worldwide problem, probably tremendously caused by the war. Oh, it's worldwide. There's no arguing. It's worldwide. Inflation is almost everywhere. Activation time, 9:45, 9:44, 59, bracket of 10, sorry, bracket of 6 on bonds, if you're trading bonds. Targets of 6 and 15. Stop of 11. I think probably a stop of 10 is okay, but I'm going to leave it. Stop of 11. Just a simple breakout trade is all I'm doing. Simple breakout trade. I probably have a template, so I'm going to load it. I'm going to see what my template. Yeah, I mean, Arthur, I'm not arguing what you're saying. I'm just arguing that the price of gas has nothing to do with inflation. That's corporate greed. I mean, let's be honest. They're creating inflation falsely through corporate greed, because the minute anyone mentions inflation or the price of oil goes up a tiny bit, the oil companies always raise the prices. They never lower them in a commensurate manner to the way the prices go down. It's just absolutely incredibly unfair the way that the system penalizes regular people. I mean, it's just the way it is. And they keep us fighting amongst ourselves so they can just keep all the money for themselves. It's just real simple. Keep the foolish people fighting amongst themselves while we steal all the money. And that's really what goes on. It'll never change until Americans read a book and educate themselves as to what's happening. So it will never change. Here we go. 9:44.59, bracket of 6, targets of 6 and 15, stop of 11. On bonds, we're going to check our bracket. Bracket width. Did they still not fix? Yes, the activate time. Darn it. You know what? I think it was wrong. It's been wrong forever. I think it's been wrong forever. I got to get that fixed. Sorry. Hang on. I'll put an email in for that. All right. But our activation time, we know it's 9:44.59, not 29. 9:44.59. Targets of 6 and 15. Stop of 11. Let's check our brackets. All right. I was going to check and see if I had a template, which I'm sure I do, on Flash Manufacturing. ZN 523. Just curious. You know what? I like 58 with bonds. Bracket of 6, 6 and 15. I'm going to move my stop manually. So I'm going to leave everything the same except 944.58. Get the orders on the chart. That looks good. And let's put the time at 0 to check our brackets. Now, gold does have an opportunity often to give a bigger move with the whippier kind of behavior that gold often gives. Okay. So the gold setup, I think, is fine. It does have a little bit higher whip risk, which everyone should know. Okay, good size bracket for bonds. Put our time back to 9. Bracket of 6. All right, target 6 and 15, stop of 11. So what I think is going to happen with the news is I do think that we're going to get negative industrial production, negative everything in terms of what's going to happen with the forecast versus real life. I do expect interest rates going up is hurting production and manufacturing somewhat. And what I'd love to see, I mean, I don't want to see bad news. I want to see a big offset. I want to see a big offset. That will help the trade. Okay, in other words, if there's a nice big offset, if what we get in the news is not what's expected, we'll get a better move, in my opinion. Now, thanks everyone for watching our free stream on YouTube. If you'd be kind enough, hit the like button for us. And if you want to know when our next stream is, you can hit that notification bell, right? Let's check our time sync. And then for everyone on YouTube, we go to the website time.is to check our computer sync. And if you're on YouTube, we are going to have a 5-day challenge in July. And you can sign up for it. It's going to be free. Education all about our system, and that goes for everyone. Anyone can take the challenge. Even if you're a member, if you want a nice big refresh, you know, of all the ins and outs of what we're doing, it's a great way to get a refresh, right? So everybody's welcome to take the challenge. And there's time to sign up, but I do recommend that people sign up early. You know, look, we always say we're going to limit it. And, you know, everybody knows that that's a marketing thing. But if we did get too many people, we truly would limit it. You can't run a class when it's so crowded that you can't answer people's questions. So I would love if we have to limit it. Here's our challenge. All right, 5 days of really good education. Should be a lot of fun as well as educational. And it's right before earnings season. So it's www.5dayabc.com. www.5dayabc.com. The fun of it, and the interesting thing is it's right before earnings. Netflix earnings, anybody know? I think they are July 18th. Netflix earnings. More and more companies are starting to come. Now, PepsiCo is an interesting one. Constellation Bank. Interesting. Is that Constellation Brands? Okay, different. Nike. Never looked at Nike earnings. Netflix. I believe it's July 18th. 19th. Wednesday, July 19th. Netflix. That's our really first official big earnings room. But I believe we'll have some earnings before that. There's some smaller companies that we're doing now. So earnings should be interesting this quarter. They really never ended this quarter because we've added a lot of different companies. There never really is an end to earnings. Not all companies release them at the same part of the quarter that most of the companies do. All right. So we've got about 9 minutes. Let's look. Last month, this report did not behave that great. I've been watching this report for years and years and years, and we've had quite a few different setups for it. Last month, it just did not have a good move in either direction. And I think both instruments were pretty poor. Gold, you could tell it had quite a bit of slippage, and then it reversed. And that's what ruined the trade for me. Actually, the whole trade just didn't work. Bonds didn't work, gold didn't work. It just was a report that did not work last month. And the news was mixed. That was possibly part of the problem. Manufacturing was down, and composite and services were up. And that definitely could have caused the problem. Now, the thing with bonds on a lot of these reports, it's so hard, but you want to try and be patient. You want to try and be patient. April, and it's not easy to be patient. It's one of the hardest elements of trading. This, I think, was a very old 2020 version of this report, going back to 2020. That's how long I've been looking at this report. Look how different our charts were. This was dead center pandemic times. Those were difficult trading days, weren't they? When the pandemic first started in particular. We were looking at gold back then, and we were looking at the ES. And not much of a reaction, not a very big reaction in July of 2020. Looks like gold decently hit the first target. All right, that's an old one. Let's go back to last month. 2 months ago, sorry. 2 months ago, this is April. April had a solid move from both bonds and gold. Now, watch, patience. Could have left everything alone, and it would have hit my target, okay? Try to be patient. If you get a good move, especially, try to be patient. Who's trading what? Who's trading and what are you trading? Who's trading and what are you trading? Anyone out there? Okay. Frank, ZN, and MGC. All right. John ZN on SIM. Anil Gold, one contract. Caesar ZF, Doc GC. So Anil, if you're going to trade one contract, what's your target? What's your target? Okay, it's not a very big target. That's okay. Okay. I was going to say if you had a very big target, you could use the if the market moves feature, but it's not that big a target. If there's a good move, you should hit that target. If there's a decent move, it should hit that target. That's the truth. You know, it's all about the news and the quality of the move. It's all about the news and the quality. So we've got a few more minutes. I'll check my time sync one more time, just because my computer's been really out of sync all week. Now, everybody, now if they're trading, you have to be on the new version of Ninja, which is working fine. I haven't heard of anyone having any issues at all. The new version seems just fine. Make sure that your activation time is 9:44, 58 or 59, 9:44, 58 or 59, right? So a couple of minutes left. Basically, almost every report from this morning was on the negative side. And like we were saying when we first got here, you've got the French version of the report was at 3:15 a.m. They had a little bit mixed news. One of their numbers was just 0.1 higher than expected. That's not very much. It was almost as expected. So I think that's why there was a good solid reaction to the euro, because the other number was quite negative. And then the German version looked like it had a decent tradable move as well. And Great Britain, though, had a difficult looking candle. Sanders said his order was canceled on the British version of the trade. So manufacturing, I mean, I think it's going to be in the 45s. I'm thinking 45s. But it's just a guess. The key is, will it be a good offset? What we want is a good offset. That's all we want. Two seconds before the news, our bond orders will show up on the chart. And we have mixed news. I'm combining my orders. This is not a good move. I'm going to shrink my stop a little bit because this is not a good reaction to the report. I'm not dying to get, yeah, I knew that was not going to work with that kind of reaction. I really hate to finish the week on a poor reaction, but we got mixed news. I mean, it's exactly the kind of reaction you don't want. Look at, it's absolutely the news that ruined this report. When it's mixed, you just don't get a good response. And that's what happened. It just, and it, you know, it decided to also just test the high again. Very frustrating, because it is a report that has the potential to be so strong. We got negative manufacturing and just slightly positive services, but you just don't get a good reaction often unless we get a stronger offset. That's part of the problem. Now, the stop was a little bigger than I felt it even needed to be honest. Normally I think a stop of 8 to 10 would have been what we would have used on this report. I shrunk the stop a little bit because I felt that the price action was not going to really give us much of a profit. It filled us. You know, it was a very poor fill. It was the top of the candle. So there was never any opportunity there to get a profit, unfortunately. So it's unfortunate. There's been quite a few good reports this week also, and it's always frustrating on a Friday to have a lousy report, a lousy reaction. Now my fill, I'm just watching the price action, but there's just essentially not much of a reaction. Really, that's part of the issue, is it was a minimal reaction and not in one direction. Gold did not look like it had a very good reaction either. Let's look at the video. One second. So we didn't do anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with our setup. When you get that kind of a move, we all know that that kind of a move is just the antithesis of a winning trade. There's not a lot you can do. And it probably wasn't a big enough move to have a very good trap trade setup. It just wasn't much of a move. So unfortunately, with bonds, it filled in one of the worst possible places at the top of the candle. And of course, ironically, you know, the top of the candle was the high of the day. Watch. So the news comes out, orders, no problem with the bracket size. It just didn't really have a good move. Didn't have a good move. Looking at gold, I don't think gold was very meaningful either. Gold was 1945, 30, 40, it looks like. Gold was also very close to the high of the day. 1945, 10, 1945, 20. So gold was 45.20. Sorry. Gold had a pretty decent move. Pretty decent move, it looked like. Anil, what happened on gold? Was it a low volume fill? Was it a poor fill? Because it moved, it looked like it moved 25, 30 ticks. Yeah, gold had a much better move. Gold had a much better move. It's actually because the charts weren't spread very far. It looked like gold worked. It looked like gold worked. So unfortunately, bonds did not mirror the quality of the move that gold had. So gold, if you had a small target, or at least a reasonable target, you had a good shot of hitting it. Anil hit the 12 tick target on gold. So that's a little frustrating. And I'll note that noted in the journal. Maybe, maybe on this report, start thinking of gold. It's 945, not as whippy as an 830 trade. So it might be something to consider going forward for the next time. Because normally this trade is a pretty good mover. It's had a couple of mediocre months, but gold, that was more than a 25 tick move and a 10 tick bracket. So there was room for some profit there. All right, folks, I hope everybody has a good weekend. Oh, and Donald had some positive slippage. Good for you. Good for you. I want to thank everybody for watching on YouTube. Don't forget about our challenge coming up soon, www.5dayabc.com. Thanks for watching. If you hit the like button on your way out, we very much appreciate your joining our free stream. I hope everyone has a good weekend, and I hope this trade didn't ruin your week. We've had some good solid events this week. We've had some good trades, so I hope people had a good week. And next week, it's going to start to get busier and busier, even though it's July. As we go into the first of the month, we always come into the more busier time periods, ADP and jobs reports. So it'll be a busy. Next week is medium busy. And the week after will be tremendously busy. All right, folks, I'll see everybody on Tuesday, I believe. I don't think there's any rooms on Monday. I'll see everyone on Tuesday for sure. So I hope everyone has a good weekend.